On this week's episode, Dr. Mike talks about the importance of quad mobility. Hi, I'm Brooke. I'm here today with Dr. Mike, and we're going to talk about quad injury and mobility. Typically, Dr. Mike, what do we see in the office?
So a lot of people come in with a complaint of a quad strain, a knee pain, or a hip pain. And so depending on kind of where they're talking about it, can help us to kind of discern either one, where the injury or issue came from, and then two, our best route for treatment for it.
Is mobility typically the issue, or?
A lot of times, yes. The other half of that we tend to see is overuse. So either not being mobile enough or just using it, going from not running at all to running 6 miles one day. Now their quad hurts, something to that extent.
Okay, and am I right when I say that typically if you're having quad issues, can your knee also hurt? Could that be a sign that it's a quad problem?
Yeah. So if we're having issues in terms of the top of the knee, that could be from just an overly tight quadricep muscle, or from over squatting too much, running too much, biking too much, or we'll typically see the pain be under the kneecap, which is very similar course and very similar in terms of the treatment that we do for it, just a little bit different in terms of the location of the pain.
And I probably should have covered this first, but the quad itself, what does it do in relation to like the hamstring and the hips?
Okay, so the quad basically functions with leg extension. So it takes our leg from a flex position to a fully extended position, whether you're on a leg extension machine at a gym, or you're doing a squat or a lunge, or just running, sprinting, a lot of movement through that hip and through that quadricep muscle.
Mm-hmm. And you see that people are typically more dominant in their quad and less in their hamstrings and glutes, or is it the opposite way?
Absolutely. So very, very quad dominant society. Majority of individuals in our country and here in Springfield specifically sit all day. All those muscles on the posterior side, the hamstrings, the glutes, are basically inactive all day long. So we become very, very dominant on the front side, and that then can also lead to some issues as well.
So would you say that it's more important to strengthen the posterior chain rather than the quad itself?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so if you walk around the mall or any store here in town, most individuals are very large in the front in terms of their belly, and they almost basically have no butt. So they have their belt holding up their pants just simply, to keep their belly off of their legs, more or less. So
what I guess if somebody were to come in with an injury, a pulled quad, or I don't know what you would call that, but what treatments do we offer?
So a couple different things. First off, I would check the knee itself to see if there's some joint misalignment within the knee or within the pelvis, just because of those muscular attachments. If it's specifically just simply a quad issue, I'm going to talk to them about just straight up mobility. How are you going to stretch it? How are you going to mobilize that muscle? Second, we're going to talk about probably some foam rolling in terms of self-care. In terms of what we would do here in the office itself, we have a technique called graston, which is a soft tissue technique that we can do to break up scar tissue or wherever the irritated tissue may be. On top of that, we could also do some cold laser on it as well.
Okay, all right. And I know mobilizing, you actually had a video last week, 3 exercises on mobilizing your quads. Make sure you check that out. What are we going to do in the later portion?
Well, I'm going to show a little bit of graston, as well as just kind of talk through the basics of using the cold laser for either supra or subpatellar pain, so either above or beneath the knee pain.
Okay, all right. Sounds exciting.
All right.
We'll see you next.
Hi, I'm Rainey. Welcome to the Fitbit of the Week. This week we're talking about quad mobility and quad injuries. So I'm going to show you 4 different basic stretches that you can do on your own. And I really want to stress like the do's and the don'ts, what's safe and what's not safe. Because typically when you go to the gym, you see a lot of people that might not be doing it the correct way. So the first one that we're going to do is just standing, pretty basic. All you're going to do is reach back and grab your foot and just kind of gently pull it back towards your butt, and you're going to feel that stretch here in the quad. What you don't want to do on this stretch is to extend through your back and try to like pull your knee up and back this way. It's going to put a lot of stress on the knee joint, which you don't want. So we don't want to injure your knee doing that one. This one can also be done lying down on your side if it's hard to balance on one foot. So if you want to, you can go down. So you're laying on one side. Again, make sure you're in a straight line and your hips are stacked on top of each other. And then you're going to pull the foot back, but again, keep the knee facing down. You don't want to pull the knee back so that it's pointing towards the back. Again, you're going to get a lot of strain down towards your knee. Another way to stretch, if it is hard for you to reach down to your foot and kind of gently pull that up, we use something in the gym here called a stretching strap. They have loops on them, so you can kind of hook it on your shoe, like so. You're going to roll onto your stomach, bend your knee up, and then you can kind of get some leverage by pulling on that, but you want to make sure that you're keeping your quad touching the ground again, so that you're not extending through the back and pulling your knee up. You want to keep it straight down like this. But again, there's another simple way to stretch out the front there and your quad. The last stretch is a little harder to balance. You're also going to get a little bit of stretch through your hips on this one as well. So you're stretching your hip flexors when you bring one knee up and one knee down this way and you kind of lean forward. You can get a little more stretch through the quad if you grab a hold of that foot again and pull it up. You're going to feel it in your hip, but also down in the front of your quad. So just another, again, this one's kind of hard to balance. You have to have pretty good balance for this one. But another good way to stretch out tight quads. So something that I typically see in just like any gym, people will be thinking that they're doing an effective stretch, but actually maybe harming their knees instead. So what you don't want to do is, if you've ever tried this stretch where you pull the knee back like this and then think you should lay back, I don't even want to do it. You think you should lay all the way down to get that stretch here. You don't want to rotate the knee in this position. You don't want to put pressure on it, putting it in an outward position like this. Again, people think that they're do a hamstring stretch like this, where they're reaching for their toes, but put their knee in this position again. We don't want to see that. You want to put the foot inward, so it's in a more relaxed state for this opposite knee. So just keep those things in mind when you are doing just your basic stretching before or after a workout. And these stretches are really effective if you have really tight quads. A lot of times we see that in runners. So something that's very important to stretch out for sure. But yeah, that's been this week's Fitbit, and we'll see you next time.
All right, we're back, and so what we're going to do now is go over what the graston technique looks like for a quad type injury. I've got Rainey here with me, and she's having some knee and some quadricep pain from playing some volleyball, and so we're going to go and actually work out and break up some of that scar tissue that's in that area. And so what we're going to do, first off, have her bring her leg up onto the table. I'm going to apply just a little bit of like a massage kind of gel here, just so we don't have a whole lot of friction going on. And then this is the tool that we're actually going to use. And so first couple passes that I go over to just what we call a scan. So I'm basically just trying to figure out and find where the worst of it is. And so what it's going to feel like to the patient, to the individual having it done, feel almost kind of like a gravelly sensation as I'm working over some of these areas that are a little bit more irritated than others. As we start warming the tissue up, I'm going to start applying a little bit more pressure, and it's completely individual dependent. So as I'm doing this, I'm watching Rainey's face. So she basically, her face is telling me, hey, that's enough, hey, too much, whatever the case may be. And then also you can see how the skin is starting to redden up. That's a good sign. It means we're increasing some blood flow in that area, but it also is kind of a cautionary to where not to push too hard or go too much more into those areas, because we don't want to cause any bruising as well. So as I'm working through this, I find some of the spots where it feels kind of the nastiest or the worst in terms of that gravelly sensation. Spend a little bit of extra time in that area and just working it back and forth across the muscle. And so typically we'll get people that complain of either pain right above the kneecap or right below the kneecap. Working up and breaking up the scar tissue within the quad itself is going to help release the tension off of that tendon itself. So keep going like this, and once again we're getting nice and red in through there, so we're going to be just about finished here. Alright, that's all we're going to do for that. So if somebody comes in with an acute quad strain or some issues with, like I said, that pain either right above or right below the kneecap, usually what I'll recommend for them is we'll see them about 3 times in that first week, a little bit less frequent from that point in time. Obviously going to be giving some home instructions as well with this. If we're talking about cold laser for a similar type issue, we're once again looking at either pain right above or right below it. We're going to use one of the massage heads in terms of the laser and go in and just go right across that tendon, either right above or right below, helping to increase that amount of healing as well as break up some of that scar tissue that's in there. If you're looking for any more information, you can head over to our YouTube page or check out our Facebook page.
To submit a question, watch a past episode, or to find out more about the Springfield Wellness Center, check us out on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or find us on Instagram, or check out our show website at wellnesslab.tv.